Children's book author Kathleen Gauer reads from her fairy tale, The Wish Carvers, and talks about the magic of being a writer. This presentation was recorded at the Grimsby Public Library on Monday, October 19th, in celebration of Ontario Public Library Week. We'd like to thank the Writers' Union of Canada for making Kathleen's visit at the Grimsby Public Library possible.
Well, my name is Kathleen Gauer, and I'm a children's book author. I'm also a wife, mother, grandmother. I love to travel, do yoga, sing in a choir, read, write, and I have lots of other interests too. And 2 years ago, I retired from my job as an educational assistant with Toronto District School Board after working there for 30 years. And one of the activities I enjoy doing now is volunteering in a weekly reading and refugees program. And I get to read picture books to children from all over the world who have just arrived in Canada and are learning how to speak and read English. So every week I borrow a stack of picture books, just like this, from the library and read to the families online. But today I'm visiting you because I write children's books. And I'm going to read to you from my newest book, The Wish Carvers. And isn't it great to be able to do this online while we are staying safe? And then after I read my book, I'll talk to you a little bit about how I came up with the idea, how I wrote the book, and also how awesome it is to be an author. And I'll even leave some time at the end to answer some of your questions. So you guys ready? Great. So I want you to think of something. If you could wish for one thing, what would it be? Have you ever wished for something and had it come true? Well, many years ago, I wished that one day I would write and publish a children's book that would be in Toronto Public Library. And Toronto's a huge city in Ontario, Canada, and it's also where I've lived for most of my life. Well, that wish to write and publish a children's book finally came true. And now I have 3 books in libraries, not just in Toronto Public Library, but in libraries across Canada, Australia, and in New Zealand. And what's exciting about having my books in libraries around the world is that many people miles and oceans away in other countries are reading my stories. And it's like I'm traveling around the world with my books and visiting other people inside their homes. Well, in The Wish Carvers, 2 brother and sister elves named Faye and Eddie have some of their wishes come true too. But with each wish granted come more and more problems for Faye and Eddie. So let's read the story and find out what happens. Oh, and as we read along, see if you can spot the 2 butterflies that appear in each scene. The Wish Carvers. The Wish Carvers by Kathleen Gauer, that's me, and illustrated by Sari Richter. On the dedication page, I wrote, "To my amazing family and all who believe in magic and fairy tales." And Sari Richter wrote, "Thank you, baby, for napping so I could paint. I hope you had enchanting dreams." When this book was being made, or when the pictures were being done, the illustrator had a little baby, and so she would do all her work when the baby was napping. Let's see that picture. Day after day, week after week, month after month, Faye and her brother Eddie carved and painted. They sold their carvings at the village market every Saturday. The 2 earned enough to buy food to eat, clothes to wear, and more paint for their carvings. But sometimes all that work was exhausting. Every day they complained about the same things. "My hands are so sore from all this carving," Faye grumbled. "I wish I could take a long rest." "All my clothes are covered in paint," Eddie whined. "I wish I had something nicer to wear." See, there's the butterflies up in the top corner. You can see them. One Saturday afternoon, while strolling home from the market, Fay and Eddie discovered an old carving knife by the roadside. When they brought it back to their cabin, they spotted some words carved on the handle. There's the knife right there. There's the words right here. Fay read them out loud. What's carved with me will come to be. Do you suppose that's true? Eddie asked. Let's find out, Fay said. She carved a miniature wooden pot of gold. Eddie painted it, and they waited. Nothing happened. Then Eddie read the words on the knife out loud. What's carved with me will come to be. Ever so slowly, the wooden pot of gold turned into a real full-size pot of gold. It worked, Fay shouted. We can carve anything we wish for. Woohoo, Eddie exclaimed. Let's try something bigger. Would you try something bigger? Or would you be happy with just the pot of gold? Let's see what they decide to do. Fay scratched her head. I know. I'll carve us living in a large stone cottage. Then you can paint it. As Fay carved away and Eddie painted, they chanted, What's carved with me will come to be. There's the butterflies again. By sundown, they had crafted their cottage. It was so perfect, Fay was positive she saw a light flicker in one of the windows. See, there it is right there. She quickly set the carving by their bedroom door and hopped into bed. The next morning, what do you think happened? Let's see. Fay and Eddie awoke to find themselves inside a huge stone cottage. Yippee, Eddie squealed. The magic worked. There's those butterflies out the window. But when Fay and Eddie crawled out of bed, they discovered their pot of gold had disappeared. And there was more work to do than ever. There was more house to be cleaned, more garden to tend, and more firewood to be chopped. Soon, Fay's hands were sorer than ever, and Eddie's clothes were dirtier than ever. Place is much too big, Eddie moaned. How can we ever keep up with all this work? Fay said, I know. I'll carve us living as king and queen in a lovely fairy tale castle with castle helpers to do all this extra work for us. Good idea, Eddie said. At least we won't have to work so hard. Again, Fay carved away, Eddie painted, and together they chanted, What's carved with me will come to be. By day's end, they had created their castle. It was so realistic, Fay was convinced she saw one of its towers sparkle. See, there it is right there. She stood the carving up against their bedroom door and climbed into bed. Just before sunrise, you know what's going to happen, don't you? Oh, no. Clatter, clatter, swish, swish, chop, chop. Fay and Eddie awoke to find themselves inside a giant fairy tale castle with many castle helpers cleaning, gardening, and chopping firewood. Sounds like our castle helpers are busy already, Fay said. I guess we better get to work too, Eddie sighed. Look at all the different characters. You know what this is? This is called a centaur. It's part horse and part human. And there's Fay and Eddie as king and queen, all dressed up. And dragon. Oh, and there's those butterflies again. Fay and Eddie were barely out of bed and dressed when tourists started lining up to tour their beautiful castle. Look at all those characters all lined up. How will we ever cope with all these people? Eddie asked. We're used to such a peaceful life, and now we'll have no time to carve and paint, Faye grumbled. And then chatter, chatter, squish, squish, slop, slop. Tourists began to pour in by the hundreds. Muddy footprints covered the floors. Pictures were knocked off the walls, and when the tourists left, they left all their trash behind. Look at all the trash there. This castle is a royal mess, Faye groaned. Now even our castle helpers are exhausted and grumbling about all the hard work. I wish we still lived in our tiny log cabin, Eddie whined. Faye said, I have an idea. Any ideas what she might be doing? One more time, Faye carved away, Eddie painted, and together they chanted, what's carved with me will come to be. That evening, Faye placed the freshly painted log cabin by their bedroom door. Then she tossed the magic knife out the window and slid into bed. She doesn't want anything more to do with that magic knife. It's caused them nothing but problems. Faye and Eddie awoke to find themselves back inside their tiny log cabin. Unfortunately, they had the money left from selling their carvings at the village market, and it was enough to buy food to eat, clothes to wear, and more paint for their carvings. I can't wait to get back to work, Faye said. She reached for her trusty old carving knife. Eddie pulled on his comfy old painting clothes. I can't wait to get started. Then he scurried off to fetch his brushes and paint. There's those butterflies again. And at the very, very end, at the back of the book, look who finds the magic knife. 2 frogs, yeah. And what do you think they're going to do with that magic knife? Any ideas? Maybe a golden pond with golden lily pads, maybe? A young girl at one of my library story times imagined that these frogs would carve themselves as people. Maybe these frogs used to be people and an evil wizard cast a spell on them that turned them into frogs. Who knows? It's all up to your imagination. And you never know when you're going to come up with an idea for a story. I wrote the Wish Carvers because I wanted to write a fairy tale that no one had ever heard before, like the fairy tales my mom used to read to me at bedtime, filled with magic, wishes that come true, and make-believe characters. My mom even decorated my sisters and my bedroom with fairy tale wallpaper. So every night we went to bed looking up at pictures of Goldilocks and the 3 bears, Little Red Riding Hood, and lots of other fairy tale creatures and characters, which we thought was pretty awesome. And I also had a father and an uncle who liked to carve things out of wood. And here's one of the carvings my uncle did. You see that? So I decided to put that idea into my story too. But I didn't just write my story one time and that was it. You know, it doesn't happen like that, right? So I would write a bit, let my story sit on the desk for a while, read it to other people. I listened to what other people told me and I made lots and lots of changes until finally I was happy with my story. And you know, it took a long time. And then it was time to work with my illustrator, Sarah Richter, who drew and painted all the beautiful pictures in my book. And that was the fun part. Together, we would decide what words and pictures look best on each page. And first, Sarah would show me a pencil sketch like this. And then she would fill it in like this. And then finally, she would do the colored watercolor. And here's a spot for the title there. That was you see, that's the title page. And you can see the difference here with this page. There's the line drawing, and there's the actual watercolor. And my favorite page is this one. This is the line drawing for that one. And then here's the final pages. Well, we did this for all 32 pages of the book. And then once all the pages were checked and double checked, they were sent to a printing company in Canada to make up into hundreds of books. When I was little like you, and I'm going to show you a picture of me. That's me when I was just starting school. When I was little like you, I wanted to write a book one day, something totally awesome. The biggest challenge for me was trying to come up with ideas, what to write, where to get ideas from. If you're trying to think of an idea, think of an object, like a shiny rock or a shell, something totally awesome, something you collected. Ask yourself all kinds of questions about it. What does it look like? What does it feel like? Why is it important to you? What if you found it and it belonged to someone else and you had to give it back? And what if it had magical powers? You could make a wish on it. Did it remind you of a beach holiday? And then just open up your book and start writing. And don't worry if you make a mistake, just keep going and let your mind drift off into different directions. And you'll be surprised how quickly you can come up with a story. And everyone has at least one book inside them, just begging to come out. And I'm no different than you. I had a dream to write a children's book and went ahead and did it. And you can too. Even if you write a few sentences a day, it doesn't seem like much, but after a year, those words can become a book and maybe even get published. And remember, there's all kinds of writers. There's newspaper reporters, songwriters, poets, school newsletter and magazine writers, and lots more. So if your teacher gives you a subject to write about, take a few minutes to dream. Jot down the first words that float into your head, and don't worry about writing in sentences at first. And always be on the lookout for new ideas. Does a cloud look like a two-headed tiger? Did someone say or do something that made you laugh? Ask the question, what if? What if you discover a baby elephant or a huge dinosaur egg in your backyard? And don't forget that being a writer takes lots of practice, and reading lots of books is a great way to start because books give you lots of ideas. Read books about what you're interested in, and there are books for everyone. And now that libraries are open again, you can borrow all kinds of interesting books. Just look at all these great books that I got from the library with my library card. And it doesn't cost anything. Well, it's been great hanging out with all of you today. You're so lucky to be just starting out your lives, and you have wonderful teachers and librarians and lots of other people to help you reach your goals and dreams. And remember, you never know when you're going to come up with an idea, but if you do, write it down. You might want to use it for a story or even a book one day, and save everything you write and read lots and lots of books, and don't forget to dream. And speaking of dreams, I'm going to finish off today by reading from my first book, High in the Sky, about a young, energetic child who hops onto a tire swing and uses imagination to go on some exciting adventures. High in the sky. See there, he's dreaming about being on his tire swing. And look at the cat all curled up on the bed. Isn't that cute? High in the Sky. And this one was also illustrated by Sarah Richter. And I dedicated this to my grandsons, for Cameron, Caleb, and children everywhere who love to swing and dream. And this book is written in rhyme. Do you ever feel like this? Yeah, I feel like that sometimes too. Whenever I feel my world's too small and I'm ready to explode, I just hop on top of my tire swing to zap this overload. All of a sudden, I'm in control. The harder I pump, the higher I soar. I bend my knees and off I go to places I've never been before. The cat up in the tree is following him along. Up 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. Then it's time to take a dive. Down 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Next it's time to climb again. There's the cat again. Each push, I'm somewhere different. Whatever pops into my mind, I travel wherever, whenever I want and leave the real world behind. There's an astronaut there. And the cat's an astronaut too. Whee, down like a roller coaster, those tickles in my tummy. Then rushing up once more I go. The feeling is so yummy. Look at the cat doesn't think it's so great, does he? He's scared in the back. And look at how the tire has become the roller coaster. An Olympic figure skater? Sure. I leap, then twirl and spin. Whiz, dip, dizzy, zip, hooray, a gold medal I win. See, even the gold medal shaped like a tire. Next push, I'm a giant eagle, gliding above the crowds. Up, 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 and away I fly, sliding between the clouds. And I even put my daughter and my 2 grandsons in the book. And sometimes I'm a surfer, riding a rolling wave, water splashing, roaring, crashing, feeling strong and brave. Look at the cat on this flutter board there, doesn't look too happy. There's just no end to what I can be or where in the world I can go. Far off jungles in Africa or mountains in Mexico. When neighbors hear me squeal, whoopee, they always stop and stare. Then they smile because they see that I don't seem to care. I've left my troubles far behind and boarded on this flight that swirls me up and into the sky, swooping like a kite. Up and down, with my frown turned around, swaying to and fro. I'm a kid up high, happy as pie, with so many places to go. Tumble, wobble, bumble, thump, I'm feeling light in my head. But I'll pump and bump till I'm all out of spunk. Then I'll plunk myself into bed. There he is in bed. Soon cozy thoughts of floating clouds will whirl inside my brain. Up 1, 2, and 3, 4, 5. I'm high in the sky again, dreaming about being on a swing. Well, thank you so much for listening. You've been a great audience. Now, do any of you have any questions about my books or about being an author? Anything you want to find out that I haven't shared with you yet? I was young when I started writing poetry. I used to like writing poems, and a few times I got them published. And then I ended up doing working for a magazine, and I would interview people. It was more of a journalist type of a job, and I could decide what I wanted to write about, and I'd go and I'd knock on the people's door and say, I'd like to interview you, and I would write an article for the magazine, And then eventually I became the editor of that associate editor of that magazine, working with other people. It was a community focused magazine. And then I did a column for a newspaper for 3 years, just about different artists in my community. So and a lot of my writing experience came from writing letters, because I'll say in the olden days, we used to write letters back and forth, and that was really good practice. So I've always enjoyed writing, and I love the flow of words. And and I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to write a children's book. My ideas just seemed to come to me. Book for no reason. I was sitting out in the backyard, and this book's about bullying. And I overheard the two boys in the yard, the two brothers in the yard behind me. They were talking to their mother. And the one little boy was saying to the mom, "Christian pushed me into the pool for no reason." And so that said, I thought to myself, that sounds like a really great idea for a title for a storybook. So that's how that book got started. So sometimes the ideas just float into your head. Every book had a start to it. This one, because my grandsons, I used to push them on the swing, and they would imagine that they were flying high in the sky, like an eagle or a plane. So that gave me the idea for this. And also, my mom used to read a poem to me when I was younger, and it was about a swing. And so I remembered that. So different things are triggers. You just have to start writing. That's all. I can tell you right now that the Wish Carvers took the longest. And it actually took over a year, because when I first started writing it, it was originally about an old man and an old woman who carved. And then it changed to two gnomes, and then it changed to two elves. And I just kept picking it up and working on it, putting it down, getting other people to read it. So it took me quite a while. I know that some authors write a book in a night, but that's not me. It takes me a long time. It's a process for me. I have to make lots of changes and read it to other people, and I want it to be the best it can be. So I give it time. There's so many different fun things to be an author. It's just exciting to visit classrooms like I'm doing today, and I'm hoping that I'm encouraging other children to maybe pursue a writing career if they enjoy writing, or whatever you decide to do. I hope that you go ahead and just do it. I enjoy having my books in the libraries, because I can see that my books are in other parts of the world being enjoyed. And that's exciting for me, knowing that other people are reading my books, people that I've never even met. And that, I would say, is the most exciting part of being a writer. I knew that was coming. Actually, I have a few little things that I'm working on. One's a rhyming tale. Another one is, I don't want to give my ideas away, but I have a few ideas that I'm working on. I would say just start writing. Write about what's in your mind. What are you thinking about? Just practice, 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 and look for opportunities to send your work to contests or like community magazines. And save everything you write. Just keep a little file of all your ideas.